Coulrophobia, the fear of clowns. Something that is all too common amongst people. It's October again, Halloween. The scary characters start to make their way out. The serial killer, the possessed dolls, the monster who wants to eat you, and clowns. One of these things is not like the other. Yet it is this outlier that seems to elicit the strongest reaction of fear amongst people. Why is something that was once a symbol of joy and laughter now seen as a monstrosity? An all too common phobia that we are reminded of relentlessly through different forms of our own media. Maybe that's the answer. Our own media in a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let's be honest here, how many times have you ever seen a clown? It's not something that is all too common to see, largely because they are part of an endangered form of entertainment traditionally, the circus. Traveling circuses were a very important form of entertainment in the late 1800s to early 1900s. Coming by the way of the railroad, the events would draw in massive crowds and present unbelievable spectacles for the audiences. The circus presented a level of entertainment unmatched by anything else in those days. The role of the clown in the circus was mainly to break up dangerous and physically strenuous acts for the other performers. When one performance would end, the attention of the crowd would be directed towards the circus clown momentarily in order to keep engagement with the crowd and create a distraction while the next act was prepared. Though functioning in a limited role, clowns were heavily used in the promotional material, like flyers, posters, and billboards for circuses. As time went on and the performances of circuses became a memory, what was left physically were these old, uncanny promotional materials. As the decade changed, so did entertainment. By the 1940s, circuses had begun to rapidly lose their popularity in America, with new forms of entertainment becoming readily available, such as the radio, sporting events, comic books, and the TV. Circuses started to operate less and less, finding it difficult to draw in the crowds they once had. As the profitability started to disappear, so did the circuses. But the clowns, they weren't going anywhere. Clowns began to make their way into different forms of entertainment in media. The rodeo started employing clowns in between acts much like the circus did. Clowns for hire started to show up at children's birthday parties. Bozo the Clown was a beloved TV character. But in this transitional period came the first disturbed clown. On April 25th, 1940, the world was introduced to a different type of clown. The Joker would first appear in Batman issue 1. It would be the first time there would be a true deviation in the established imagery of a friendly buffoon-like circus clown. The original imagery of the Joker made it clear that it was a clown parody rather than that of a deranged circus performer, with the character using many circus clown motifs. Over time, the Joker's appearance has strayed away from its clown-based roots, but in the most recent adaptation of the character, we can see a return to the original inspiration. Though being one of the most recognized characters in the world, the Joker is certainly not regarded as a scary character. But his creation and nickname, the Clown Prince of Crime, did foreshadow something that would truly terrify Americans for decades.
In Des Plaines, Illinois, near Chicago, a man who served time in prison for sex crimes was let out. Today, they found the bodies of at least 3 young boys buried under his house. He is charged with murder. Here's Jim Cummings.
Police have been watching John Gacy's suburban Chicago home for the past 10 days.
On December 21st, 1978, the world would be introduced to one of the most deranged and vile serial killers in the United States, Mr. John Wayne Gacy. Gacy had been charged with the child swiping, S.A.R.ing, and killing of 33 young boys over the previous 8 years. But what made Gacy all the more unsettling was one of his professions. Gacy was a notable local performer in his town, entertaining children as his character, Pogo the Clown. The press were quick to jump on this bizarre aspect of Gacy, finding self-portraits in his pogo attire and dubbing him the Killer Clown, a name and event that would alter the public image of clowns indefinitely. It is rumored that this event is what inspired Stephen King's character Pennywise from his book It, seeing that the book would be released 3 years later. The character of Pennywise would share many similarities with Gacy. Both were clowns that enjoyed taking the lives of innocent children, and both would perpetuate a societal fear of clowns even further. By the mid-'80s, the clown had solidified its transition from a symbol of comedy to a symbol of terror, and the media had caught notice. In 1988, Killer Clowns from Outer Space would be the first movie to use clowns in a horror context. Though the movie was more in line with the tones of a dark comedy, the grotesqueness of the killer clowns would shock moviegoers of the decade. 2 years later, in 1990, the first true horror starring a clown would be the movie adaptation of Stephen King's novel It. As time went on, more and more clown-based horror characters would solidify themselves with the public psyche, pushing the image of the clown further into that of a monster than that of an entertainer until the clown simply was a monster and nothing more. The idea of having a clown in any sort of non-horror context seems to be undoable, as the clown has become synonymous with the genre as much as the masked slasher has. As we fast forward into our modern year, here in the October of 2024, let's revisit the question I posed at the beginning of the video. How many times have you seen a real clown? And if you're under the age of 50, I think the answer is 0. So then, how have you developed the feeling of fear you associate with clowns? And the answer to that would be due to the media you have consumed about clowns being horror-themed in order to make them scary. This form of learned fear can be seen with other formerly normal things as well. Small-town America was once a dream to many, but has turned into an uncanny setting for many horror movies today. The same can be said with rural Americans, going as far to merge with the fear of clowns in one of my favorite movies, House of a Thousand Corpses. But what should be the scariest part of anything you've learned here today is that you can be conditioned to be afraid of something you've never had real experience with yourself. Just think about that for a little bit. Happy Halloweeny! Bye-bye!